Dopamine swipe, dopamine swipe. Followers, likes, double tap. Now they control your life.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the 817 podcast. It's been a big week in the fort. We've got some exciting things to talk about, and then we also have Tara Wilson, who will be running for the District 4 City Council seat, coming on to talk about life since the last election and what this new cycle is going to look like. But first, let's dive in to what the Fort Worth report titled A Game Changer. This is pretty huge news. Texas A&M is going to be building a new campus in downtown Fort Worth. The university and city will be investing almost $1 billion in creating a research and event center and a massive new campus that will be an expansion of the law school and as well as a research and innovation campus here in downtown Fort Worth. When this first hit, what were your immediate thoughts?
Well, we got a little bit of the breadcrumbs from Mayor Maddie Parker at the Global Entrepreneurship Week State of the Entrepreneurship in Fort Worth, where she kind of said something was coming, and then the next day they had the event where Betsy sat next to Maddie as if she was already judged and all that. But I think this is great. I think this is great. They also, we talked about the Techstars potential coming to Fort Worth a lot earlier, but that's currently on hold. So we didn't even announce it during Global Entrepreneurship Week, which was also this week. And so I think this is some good news that came when I think the Techstars thing is not that I don't think it's not happening. I just think that is also something that's going to happen. That's going to be more information on. So what's crazy about this, they're talking about calling this Aggie North. That's what the chancellor, John Sharp, is calling this new campus, Aggieland North. Now that is like, to me, not just a law school. That is like, we want to really build a presence in Fort Worth. So that's exciting. And we're talking about research base. We're talking a tier one institution, a high employer of the state, a top 5 university on size. You're talking a serious move in Fort Worth. And you need university support to have that kind of innovation talent part that we all talk about. If we're going to have people like Rivian potentially moving here, they got to have people with talent that can take jobs. Yeah, and also it answers a lot of questions for downtown Fort Worth of how do we make this area less reliant on tourism, right? Like with the pandemic, downtown Fort Worth has seen a lot of businesses closed, empty storefronts, unused hotels. And this is the type of thing that, even though obviously universities are seasonal, this is guaranteed people living in this area, in and around, walking around, eating, having coffee, going for a drink, and positioned right next to a railroad station and a massive bus hub. This could lead to major investments in public transit. I think it really, for downtown Fort Worth, helps solve a lot of these pieces of how do we make us less reliant on tourism, and in tangent with the potential convention center remodel, that 5 or 6 block area that really looks pretty beat up right now is going to be a shining light in the city because of this. Yeah, the Texas A&M University system already owns the important property around Commerce and Calhoun Street, including its current law school building and adjacent parking areas. Nearby city property may come into play as well. The Deputy Chancellor Billy Hamilton, the A&M system's chief financial officer, said that groundbreaking on 2 new buildings could happen within 18 months. He estimated the project at $250 million. I mean, what's really cool when you think about the strip of innovation now, our city council moving to the Pier 1 building on the other side, and then, kind of having that space now with this over here on the other side. I think that's super exciting and really cool. Now, this is the 817 podcast, where we also have to probably have some critiques. What are some lows? And I think this is definitely a potential loss for UTA, who just moved down a business MBA program downtown. I mean, maybe it does good for them, but so for me, ideally, man, this kind of growth would have been awesome from a UTA perspective, from a more metropolitan, urban feel, diverse population. But if you're a person of color and you've ever walked on Texas A&M campus, that does not feel like a welcoming place. If you go into the history of Texas A&M, it is probably equally as brutal as Fort Worth history, which makes this a perfect pair. This is, if you want to talk about cowboys and culture, College Station and Texas A&M is the epitome of that. This is like a perfect match when it comes to stigma, aura, and culture. So that is my one knock, but hey, this is majority greatness.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see the relationship with TCU and this new school. Now that, TCU is not a research-based institution. A lot of their professors don't have their research funded by TCU. If those professors could potentially stay in Fort Worth and now go to an institution that maybe values their research abilities and desires more, I feel like this is going to push TCU to potentially up its game as well, which is a positive for professors, hopefully, that they are able to leverage that in some way. But I am interested to see how this affects the other schools in the area, and UTA's program goes in line with that as well. I'm interested to see, where are these people going to live? There's a ton of apartments, but there's not really affordable housing in the area. It doesn't appear that, dorms will be part of this at all. So, I'm interested to see where these people are going to live, how are they going to affect the, traffic patterns in that area that could already, has the potential to get congested, and are we going to push public transit and making that area more walkable to accommodate that? Because I really think that this could be something that triggers actual investment into the bus and train and sidewalk systems in Fort Worth, because we need it to support an institution like this. Next, this is a small story from CNN. Former presidents Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama are asking Americans for support to build a national museum to recognize Medal of Honor recipients. That national museum would be in Arlington, Texas. Super cool, super exciting. This came out on Veterans Day. Obviously, trying to salute and respect the people who have earned these medals of honor. These three former commander-in-chiefs are on the board of directors for the Museum Foundation, and really they're just trying to get behind and say, this is a good thing to come and honor these people. I think it's really cool that Arlington is where this would land. It's, branches out a little bit from what we talk about a lot of the time, but Arlington has a lot going for it as far as tourism goes. And this feels like something that could really easily be added on to coming to see a Cowboys or Rangers game.
I mean, I think if you've ever been to a Cowboys game, how much the military is involved, how much American pride is involved in Dallas Cowboy games, it fits really well.
So they're planning on trying to break ground on the museum early next year and hope to have it completed and open by 2024. The urgency being so that the 66 current living Medal of Honor recipients could tour the museum in their lifetime.
Powerful.
Yeah, medal is established in 1861, and more than 3,500 Americans have been awarded. So that's this is something that wasn't on my radar at all that popped up and seems like has a lot of weight behind it and is hitting the ground running pretty fast.
Yeah, we spoke about this a long time ago of the idea of this happening.
Oh, yeah, we did.
Yeah. That's when I think we made the comments around having, talking about the Black History museums and things like that. So, but hey, we're having both. And I think that's awesome, to be able to have both museums respecting all of our history, all of the, from our vets who fought in a war to the social inequities of our past. Let's move into the third story. We got a big story. We have a lot going on this episode. And so we're going to move into this is the short story that's going to lead to the big story, which is Tara Wilson announcing that she is going to run for city council 4 seat, where she could have made it to a runoff by 50 votes last time. That is when she was going to go against Cary Moon. So today's last final story is more about Careless Moon, who I used to start, if I stopped saying it because I started feeling a little bad because, everyone makes mistakes. But he definitely lives up to the name. A motion to revoke the probation of Fort Worth City Council member Cary Moon has been filed in Johnson County Court after he was accused of violating the terms following his DWI conviction. Moon pleaded no contest to driving while intoxicated on June 2nd and was sentenced to 18 months of probation. He's violated the terms of his probation by drinking alcohol, failing to submit the urinal analysis, failing to complete community service, and traveling out of state without permission. Moon's ignition interlock device recorded high alcohol readings 12 times from June 2nd to July 2nd, and 5 times from July 21st to September 10th. Jimmy, bring it home.
Yeah, technically, this article is incorrect. It should say acting city council member Cary Moon.
Got him!
But, yeah, I mean, arrest warrant was issued October 28th, said he paid the $10,000 in cash. The hearing on the motion is scheduled for January 18th. It's obviously significant because this story broke the day after he became acting city council member by announcing that he was running for state legislature. He admitted that he had a glass of champagne on June 23rd celebrating his anniversary, but that doesn't account for the 16 other times he violated it.
But high alcohol readings, right? I mean, it's just champagne. That's not going to do. I don't know how that works, but
yeah.
And I mean, if you really think about it, 17 times in a month. Let's say you were, you take the weekends. There's 2 days. That's 8 days.
When you're not supposed to be doing it.
Yeah, this guy has to be like a walking drink in his hand. Like, to get it 17 times, you're talking every other day between June 2nd and July 2nd. Like, now I almost feel for him in a way. Like, hopefully you figure yourself out a little bit. Like, this is a serious matter. I have alcoholism among my family. But yeah, I just think it's crazy to see what happens next with the state stuff. Do you think he still can do that? What's your take there?
No, I believe that if this is upheld, if his probation is revoked, then he would not be able to run for. He would be disqualified from running for state legislature, which he's already. he has already stepped down from his city council seat. There's no, going back saying like,
So he can't come back.
No, he is acting until the election happens. So if his probation were to be revoked, he would still be in that role.
This also makes sense why all his maps he submits are so bad. He's intoxicated writing them. Makes sense. Makes sense why they're all over the place.
But he would still continue to serve in the acting role unless there was a vote of no confidence against him. Not to get too far down in the weeds with that, but there's potential now that he could not be able to run for state legislature, and he has already lost his city council seat. I mean, I'm just like, come on. Like, what are you doing? Like, just follow the rules. Like, I know that you...
But rules don't...
I know that you think the rules don't apply to you, but just like, this is a more serious matter than, I don't know, like telling a white lie or something. Like, you're a public-facing figure, and I know that we have a slew of examples of public-facing figures that get away with this type of crap. But like, just follow your probation. Like, yeah. I mean, you said it before we came on the show, like, if you're a person of color violating your probation like this, like,
go to jail.
Yeah, you're behind bars immediately. There's no... Yeah. Like, you're already getting the benefit of the doubt getting to play this out a little bit. But, like, all you had to do was just not drink. And, like, you knew that. And so, like, yes, like we say, Careless Cary, and, like, clearly he thinks the rules don't apply to him. But, like, if he has an actual issue with alcoholism, like, I really hope that he gets the help and support he needs to overcome that. He obviously should not be running for or holding public office. Like, I know that, like I said, like, people get away with this stuff all the time. But, like, can we just stop letting that happen? Like, can we actually hold people accountable for their actions? Yeah. I mean, when this came out, I was just like, yeah, I mean, that's, like, what I would expect of him. Honestly, I don't even know if the probation was public knowledge, because nothing has come out since his DUI just kind of disappeared.
Yeah, you were also saying a lot about around that, how you're like, this just, the timing seems too...
Yeah, like the day after, like, I mean, this was filed on October 28th. An arrest warrant was issued October 28th, and, like, this is coming out the day after you step down from city council. Like, come on.
Yeah.
That seems a little convenient. I don't, like,
so,
I'm not...
So, yeah, because then if you go back there, then you're saying that he wasn't... But he was seriously considering going for the state seat. But
yeah.
But then this happened, the arrest happened, in the middle of trying to make that decision if I'm going to do that or not. But now he can't do that because of this that has come out October 28th. Is that what we're basically, how the timeline could have happened? Because are we just trying to say he was trying to run for the state seat and he knew that he was just trying to find a graceful way to get out of... Because if I knew I couldn't run for the state seat because of this, then I would have just stayed at city council.
No, I think he's thinking that he's going to get this motion that I think he's probably thinking he's going to win this, still be able to run for that seat. I think to him, he's thinking that, he's going to figure out a way around this. But so I think the state thing has been in the mix for a while. Like, we knew that he had aspirations of higher office before even the last election cycle. But yeah, I don't know the news cycle, how long it takes to, get something like this onto the page. But An arrest warrant October 28th. This is like 11 days later, 12 days later.
Yeah.
That we're finally hearing about it conveniently after he has already forfeited his city council seat, but now gets to act in that role for, the next 6 months.
Yeah.
Just seems a little bit fishy to me.
Yeah.
But that leads us into our guest.
Yeah.
With Cary having announced that he is no longer part of city council, District 4 will be having a special election next May, and we are excited to have on with us Tara Wilson, who, she knew that she was running again if Cary decided to step down. And so she was ready almost immediately to announce her campaign. She ran against Cary for City Council District 4 this past election, was only 50 votes away from forcing a runoff, and now will be, I guess, the most experienced person as far as campaigning goes in this upcoming election cycle. But we've got her coming back on to talk to us.
Well, is Tara the only person or the second person to come on twice?
I think so.
Right? Emily Ferris, did she come on twice?
Oh, yeah, she did. And
Yeah.
Dr. Dixon.
Dr. Dixon?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you're on part of a limited few, but we would love to, I guess, start the pod with just what was your initial reaction? And because, I saw you at Black Coffee, briefly there, and I think your mind was all on these other directions. And then that kind of happened really recently since that engagement. What was your initial reaction, and then how did you make the decision process to run for the seat?
Well, I guess I've been very involved in really my desire to just work in like the voter engagement space, right? I listened to a few of y'all the last few shows, and we talked about like even for the Fort Worth bond, how it was decided by like what 50,000 people or less, right?
Yeah,
and we
25.
have a city of yeah, and like that makes me almost cringe. And so I became a voter registrar, and so like I've been at like the high schools in the district, stayed engaged with Roxanne Martinez, wanting to stay engaged in Riverside and really give them some focus that they haven't really had. And so I was like, well, I still live here, and it's part of my community, and so I really intentionally stay engaged with that. And so I was like, high school voter registration week out there registering these, high school seniors, and just really like, they fundamentally just really don't know a lot. But there's also like other aspects of voter engagement that people just don't know, like about like being the ability to be a poll worker. Mm-hmm. And like, for some people, like that pays like $12 an hour. And for some people, that's like an improvement on what they like their regular full-time job is paying them. And for a student, working a poll like the November 2nd election, it's like it's an excused absence, and like the principals at these schools like actually would love for their students to miss a day of class to be at a polling location to work, so they're getting the experience of understanding that like when somebody go cast a ballot, a team of people had to be there to set up those machines, mm-hmm. to make sure things were working seamlessly, to make sure that they had the ability to have someone there to assist them to exercise their right to vote, and that everything has to be put back up, votes have to be counted, things are locked up. There's just this very methodical way that the voting process happens. Like it's not, if you're only listening to like some news cycle, it's not this craziness that the media likes to portray. Like there's a real methodical way about it. And for election judges, which I am an election judge, our election day starts at like 4:30 in the morning, getting ready so that you're there on time to open up and set up, and we probably end the night at 8 or 8:30 p.m. So you're looking at a 14 to 16-hour day. Somebody had to decide to serve in that position to make it possible for people to vote. And so I think that people don't understand that they're able to make a little extra money doing that, helping, being volunteer paid. I call it being volunteer paid because you are giving of your time to be there, and it's obviously not a lot of pay, not like a working wage, which now they actually increased the judge pay to $15 an hour. And so those little pieces, I think, is what's missing. So I kind of kept myself in the voter engagement space. So I really kept staying involved with everybody that I had met in the campaign, all the new people I'd met working in the District 9 campaign in the runoffs. And so when the news about Cary came across my bow, I was like, well, that campaign was 5 months ago, ended 5 or 6 months ago. And I had already been being asked, like, hey, would you be interested in any type of other positions, and here's why you should be, and here's why you'd be a good fit for it. So I was just having like open dialogues and open conversations, and I'm such an inquisitive person that I'm like, if I don't know about something, I'm just like, yeah, tell me more, like, yeah, help me understand, like, if my thinking's wrong, set me right, like, I'm okay with that. And so I was still fully being a candidate, and I had every intention to run in the next regular cycle, which would have been at this time next year. And so when the Cary news, when it came across that he was considering the state ledge run, I was like, sure, like, let's go. All we have to do is just put the keys back in the car and turn the engine back on. And so, yeah, so I was like, oh, I'm in. So it really was. I haven't really stopped since the campaign. Maybe I should have, but it's just too hard. It's kind of like, once I'm a person, like, once I know, I want to do better, right? Like, do something with it. And so, yeah, there really wasn't much to think about. It was like, yes, okay, let's go.
So what, actually, have you like heard any rumors about who might be running against you at all, or that's still like totally up in the air?
No, I haven't heard anything. I'm honestly not that concerned about it. I have to be focused on what I'm doing, what my goals are, what we can do better in this campaign, this next go around, those kinds of things. So really, I'm not focused on who else is going to be in it. I mean, it's an open seat. We saw like the chaos of like District 7, right? Like, yeah. and even the mayor's race, right? Like, just all these people who were interested and engaged as well, and one had a desire to be in the position. So I would imagine that a few people would get in the race, and again, when we talk about a democratic process and this being a democracy, choice is a good thing for people. Now, whether they come out and decide to be a part of that process is another different conversation, which is a whole part of it too. So yeah, it's really a matter of just trying to figure out like how many people are actually going to come out and show up for that election, because we're talking about one district, right, and one specific part of Fort Worth, and so like, what's the anticipatory participation rate is going to be for that? So really, I think that's really what I'm more focused on. So haven't heard anything. Again, like I said, I imagine that there will be a few. To think otherwise, I think would be kind of short-sighted. So yeah, I mean, I'm just ready. Like, I've been so involved in this for the last 3 or 4 years, and my anticipation to think about running, I planned it out for over a year, and just really researching, and wanted to fully understand what was going to be necessary for the job, and whether I really would have the time to serve, because it is a full-time position. Like, there is no doubt about that. And so again, I'm fortunate enough to have the type of job and schedule where I don't have to be in an office every day. I literally just write my own schedule. So then I would be able to take my full-time job and the things that pays on my bills and keeps, my household going, and be able to make that work around what the duties of city council would be. And so again, when we talk about who's going to be in the race, the conversation for these people is going to have to be like, do you have the ability to give the time, and are you able to work a full-time job getting paid like, I think almost less than minimum wage,
Yeah.
right? Like, so yeah.
What is messaging wise, priorities wise? Actually, before I get to that question, I think starting that question with a nice introduction. I mean, we haven't had you on the pod in 6 months, and so we have a lot of maybe new people who listen. So an introduction, but then also a revision of maybe your messaging or your priorities the first go around. How do you see you shifting some things this upcoming campaign?
Well, yeah. So introduction. Yeah, my name is Tara Wilson. I originally am from Waco. I chose to move to Fort Worth, get away from home, and make Fort Worth my home for me and my kids. I'm a mother of 3. I'm a full-time ER nurse. I've been a nurse for a total of 11 years, with a passion in the mental health sector, and emergency medicine, and really like with community resources in regards to healthcare. And so I have been serving on the front lines of the pandemic since it started. I went to Chicago last year. Kept my full-time job here, and also went to Chicago to help them in a very hard-hit Hispanic area of Chicago. I am a third generation Mexican American, and so I do speak fluent Spanish as well. And so I was able to go up there with a former contracting agency and help them in their height of the COVID pandemic. And then proceeded to work in East Texas in really hard hit areas and in their COVID tents, running like triage COVID ERs out there from middle of June through the end of October last year. And then started campaigning in November. And so I had the desire to run for city council when I was locked out of City Hall after the death of a Tatiana Jefferson, her losing her life at the hands of one of our very own Fort Worth police officers. And so I went up there to desire, like, try to figure out, like, how did this happen? And being locked out of City Hall really kind of just struck this nerve in me. It was like, we're all tax-paying members of Fort Worth, and this should be a building that's open to us. And this was pre-COVID. And so why aren't we allowed to be inside? And we were told it was full, but when they started streaming the city council meeting, like over half the dais was empty. And it really like bothered me. And so once I started looking into like, what does city council do? Who's qualified to be a city council representative? And what would I want in my city council member? And so I thought to myself, I would never lock anyone out of City Hall. Like, I would actively be like, listen, we can't do this, regardless of what your views are. Or even if you didn't like me as your city council person, I would still be out there like, hey, come in, be involved, be engaged. And so I just realized that like there was not this community engagement piece where like actually going out and trying to telling people like, this is what's going on. These are the decisions that you need to be a part of. And those things really weren't happening to me, in my opinion, at the time. And so that's how I kind of started going down the road of being a part of city council. And when I realized like working in the ER, I make some very critical decisions and from a few minutes. I have to anticipate the needs of people constantly. Like that's all that we do. And like having bad outcomes is like not a good thing. So it's almost like it's really a constant work at providing good care, providing good outcomes, providing and even if the outcome isn't good, like providing like an answer or trying to come up, not just saying, well, I'm not sure we can do something about that. There's always some type of solutions oriented reaction to a complaint in the ER. And so like I'm like that about like every aspect of my life. And so I'm like, well, that's kind of like, I feel like that's a great skill set to have. And it's probably a skill set that's not really seen in that type of leadership position, because being able to serve and like what I just alluded to about the low pay and this full-time schedule and having to maintain a family, in your house, those positions it's limited to who can do that. And so I was like, I can do this. Like, absolutely. If I can manage this with, bodily fluids kind of flying around and kind of being in danger, I think I can sit in, a climate controlled environment and have, some dialogue with people and try to find solutions to problems that we do have. And so, yeah, so that's how I ended up here. So I ran for City Council District 4 in this last municipal cycle in the spring. I came within less than 50 votes of forcing the race into a runoff. And so that number still in my mind is like less than 50 votes. Like, and you go back and you think like, where could I have gotten just one or two and two here and two there? And then that's when we start talking about like, wow, like we have 100,000 people in Fort Worth as a whole making the decision for who's going to make all these decisions for 1 million people. And so there's just all these layers to it, to me, that are very fascinating. And I think there's solutions to them. It just takes work. And that's something that I'm not allergic to. I can work. I'm a workhorse. And so, I am very, I have a huge desire and passion to do that work. And so that's how I ended up here today with you guys.
Yeah, can you go ahead and expand on kind of the campaign priorities? What's like messaging you saw working when you were going door to door, and things that you felt that you want to bring this time around as well?
I mean, I don't think the priorities have really changed that much. I mean, so it the makeup of District 4 is quite odd. So it's in the shape of an L. It spans from I-30 and 35 with like breaking up Riverside, historic Carter Riverside. And it goes all the way north on the east side of 35 to Golden Triangle. And then at I-30 and 35 goes east on I-30, north of I-30 to the East Loop 820. And so you have a suburban part of District 4, and then you have like an urban part of District 4 whose needs are completely different from one another, whose priorities are going to be different from one another. And I said in the very first, all I did was talk about how for that district, you got to have somebody that has the energy and desire to go speak to both of those areas and understand what their needs are, and to be able to go to bat for implementing infrastructure, implementing growth strategies, implementing community engagement pieces that fit what they need. And that's hard. For anybody, it's hard. It's hard for someone to be able to be that focused, but that's really what District 4 needs. I would say that 3/4 of District 4 for the most part have been completely disregarded for the last 6 to 8 years. And then even before that, I would say that the representative before that had more of a focus on the east part of Fort Worth and not enough focus on the north part of Fort Worth. So then they were ignored and disengaged and not part of, decision making. And so then it flipped. Then you had the north part that was getting all of the attention, and the east part just got completely ignored. And so I really want to say to everyone in District 4, like, I'm here to serve both parts. And right now the city's going through redistricting. And I talked about redistricting a lot in the first campaign, because I really believe that there's a portion of District 4 in the north that really needs to be put into an area with more suburban parts of Fort Worth, where they have, there's this term we call communities of interest that you guys have talked about, that would they would be the same type of communities so that they could all come together and have their needs met. And so, I hope that through redistricting that happens. It needs to happen. And of course that won't be implemented until those new maps won't be until the next full election cycle, which is 23. So the special election right now would be finishing the term of this current term. And so we'll still be operating in the current District 4 that I just described. And then we'll see what happens with redistricting and see what the shape of District 4 and really all the districts are going to be. So the priorities are the same. Building strong communities and helping them to become more engaged and be a part of decision-making process. So when I was standing on the doorsteps of people's homes in North part of District 4, that would be like Heritage Trace, and Crawford Farms and Summerfields. The constant consensus was like, we feel left out. We don't feel connected to the city at all. And we talk about connectivity in the city. Then the transit question comes in, transportation. There's only really one full way up into the north part of District 4, and it's on 35. And if anybody takes the drive north of I-30, it's horrible.
Oh, it's miserable.
It's horrible. It's bad, right? Beach Street has so much congestion on it. Riverside, so much, North Riverside, so much congestion on it. And so they're like, we just feel ignored. We never hear from anybody. I had people tell me, I've lived here for 20 years. I've never had one single representative knock on my door. You're the very first one. And then my pitch would be like, well, remember who did the knocking when you go vote? Like, remember who showed up at your doorstep? And so that was the consensus for them. And so again, helping people understand that somebody there that wants to amplify their voice. And so that's really one of the same priority from the first campaign will be the same now. Again, the budget is such a huge driving force of the city. We have so much sprawl. And again, the north part of District 4 is a part of this, like where do we have the infrastructure to support the growth that we have been at the rate at which we have been growing? And can we continue to grow at that rate? Like, can we sustain that? And it was an interesting conversation that I had with someone just the other day about like, we have developers that are wanting to come in and like, even like way out in West Fort Worth, like Walsh Ranch, they're wanting to just throw up these subdivisions, a few hundred houses, like how's the planning for the roads and the traffic? How are we going to get them connected to water or fire service, police out there? We already know that, unfortunately in District 4, crime in Riverside is an issue. There's a watch page where like people are everyday posts like, my truck was just stolen at Sam's, like their whole entire truck. They go in the shop, they come out, their truck is gone. North Fort Worth, same problem. They call and they say it probably takes police about 20 to 30 minutes to come. And so again, when you bring up the police conversation, that can be a very electrical kind of emotionally driven conversation. And so really you have to get down to like, in this community, right, we're going to talk about specific communities, like building strong communities. What is it that you need? What is your view of what's the relationship between, your oh God, what's it called?
Like your NPO,
your NPO, yes. Yeah, your NPO and your communities. Do you know who they are? Do you know how to get in touch with them? Like, do they understand what's going on here? And if you go to the neighborhood association meetings, the NPO is there, but how many people are really at that meeting? And again, it's still just a handful of people. And so really, like, again, really the engagement piece of communities is engagement and education. And so I don't really think the priorities have changed too much. I think people are still trying to trying to navigate COVID. It's not gone. It's not away. We're still hospitalizing people for it. We're still educating people still right now, educating people just on the basics of what COVID looks like and what it feels like to have COVID. And you would think that at this point, everybody would know, but they don't. They don't. That's an interesting conversation in the hospitals and stuff. And the medical community is just like, if you don't know, then what else don't you know? And so again, I think that the issues are still the same issues. Like I don't think 5 months is going to really change that too much. And I do believe that people are ready to also get out of their house. I think they're out. Everyone's out and about. So it's just a matter of, everybody still staying safe and getting vaccinated, and then if you don't want to be vaccinated, like the things you can do to keep yourself safe, and so, yeah, so all of that, that conversation can last hours. So
What with a lot of the priorities staying the same, how are you and like the people working with you talking about like changing up messaging or how you reach people to like you said, it's not a huge gap versus an incumbent that you had to overcome. So like how do you make up those little bits along the way here and there? What is your like strategy around messaging and getting the message out and getting people out to vote for, this might be the only thing on the ballot come next May. So if 8,000 people showed up last May for a mayoral election, are we looking at like 4, maybe 5,000 people that are gonna vote in this, if not even that? So how does the means of getting the message out change for y'all this time?
Well, this time around with, knowing the improvements that we can make in the campaign is fundraising for one. Unfortunately, it costs time or money to engage voters. And so like, I think the statistic is that on average, you have to make 6 contacts in some form of fashion with one voter to even get them to start thinking about being involved in whatever issue, candidate, race that is. And so if you think about District 4, and I was like 110,000 people in it, hitting, say the target is the 8,000, hitting them 6 times, that's 48,000 times that you're having to make contact. That's time and it's money, right? That's a lot. And so fundraising is definitely a part of that. I wish we could take the money out of politics, but that's just kind of the reality of what that system is right now. And so that's a portion of it, having a better like strategy. But really, like my goal is going to be present in all these communities. So there's going to be event after event after event after event. I would love to say that everybody there will get tired of seeing me out there like, okay, girl, we get it. But in reality, that won't be the case, because every time that we have an event will probably be the first time that somebody is hearing about me, seeing me in person, being able to engage with me face to face. Also, the fact that we have, thankfully through the vaccinations and all now being able to go down to 5 years old, we're able to actually do a lot more face to face, which is, we know, so much more effective. People are over that, right now I'm looking at you guys on my Zoom camera, but, people are over that. And so I also think that's going to help, that is helpful, to be able to actually be in the flesh with them, the voters, and actually them feel my energy, understand that my desire and my, I'm not just trying to get a position for like clout. Like I really do want to bring and engage, like a level of engagement that has not been in this position for, again, over 2 decades. So, and then we're also talking about like being engaged and making sure like the other parts of the city that we need to keep functional are also like being done in a very thoughtful, intentional manner. And so, I'm excited. Like I'm even excited to meet people who like necessarily like want to come and not like me, and like win them over. And then if I can, it's okay. I just really want my voters and people in District 4 to understand that like I will always be willing to listen to you, and I will always be willing to have a conversation about it, because I don't know everything. If you have somebody in front of you that's telling you like I have the answers to everything, like no, they don't. Like it's just an outright lie. But with your help and you letting me know, like, hey, this is what I need, or this is what I see, or this is what I think, multiple mindsets and lenses and thoughts and experiences really get us to a better place in general. You see that like in the workforce, right? Like when your management engages its employees, they get real feedback and are able to like have this open dialogue about how do we make work better. Well, then guess what happens? Like, right, sales go up, morale goes up, end results happen more, in a better way. And so, I really, at the end of the day, even want those who maybe disagree with some of my views or like how people may paint me out to be, when they meet me, understand, like, you know what, like maybe on this issue, I don't agree with her, but I do believe she's somebody that I could go to and be like, hey, I have a problem. And I would be like, all right, let's figure it out together.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we appreciate you definitely like hopping on the pod. And I think, just hearing your strategy and just thinking of your story as you were a new person running in city council, and just hearing what you reminded me, like you did it in a pandemic. You were 50 votes away in a pandemic. We're not even talking about what you can do now that you can use traditional ways to get to people. Plus, a lot of my worries was, the incumbent, Cary was going to endorse somebody, but now I don't even know if his endorsement would matter or hold weight anymore based off of what has come out on Star Telegram around him not passing his probation and all that stuff. So I can't even imagine someone wanting that. So you just seem so positioned to really provide a fresh voice in your area. And any last things would you like to say or share for listeners and how we can get involved? To what you just said, EJ, I'm not taking anything for granted. So like, by no means do I think like this is going to be easy or have it in the bag in any kind of way. This is something that I'm ready to work for all the way. I'm not taking, as you see, like I'm already in there. My foot is on the gas. Mm-hmm. My brakes are not working. Like, so we're just going full steam forward. And so for people out there, you can, the campaign just launched. So we're going through like revising the website and social media and still building on that. But you can find me at votetara.wilson.com, votetara.wilson.com. Go on there, look at the issues that I stand for, donate. Sign up to volunteer. If you don't want to knock at someone's door, but you'd be willing to make a few phone calls or send a few text messages, there's a page you can actually, I think when you pop up, you can just sign up for the newsletter and just kind of follow the campaign. I will be coming to you. Like, that's my goal. To come to you to say, come over here with me. Let's do this. Let's talk about the things that you can be a part of. And so, votetara.wilson.com across all social media. You can find me at the handle at vote TARA Wilson. So that's Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you want to contact me, you want to just directly contact the campaign, that's info@votetara.wilson.com. Hit me up. I'm 75% of the time I'm the person responding to those emails. So you like have a direct route to me all the time. And for some people that might not be like their way of going about it, but like I'm completely here and available. And again, I chose this. I do believe this is a position of service. And so I will be available. So, if somebody wants to find me, they can find me very easily. So absolutely. So votetara.wilson.com, at votetara.wilson on all social media. And for any type of inquiries or direct contact, you email info@votetara.wilson.com. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on. We look forward to like once a few months down the road is like we're more into the nitty gritty of it, having you back on to talk again.
Ooh, okay. I'm up for the three.
Yeah, you'll be the first. You'll be three-peat. Yeah, so that'd be great.
No, thank you guys so much. I love this podcast. Y'all are engaged. You talk about so many rich issues, and And so I when you asked me to come on, I was like, absolutely. So thank y'all so much for giving me the platform.
That was Tara Wilson. We were super excited to have her on short notice, that she could come and join us. And we're excited to see what her campaign does. I think she has a good point that it's probably going to be a crowded field. This could be like a District 9 or District 7, like she mentioned, scenario where there's like 10 or 12 people and a bunch of them are only within like a few votes of each other to get to a runoff. So we're excited to see how it plays out. Look forward to talking to her more and seeing what her campaign does. But yeah, it was a big week. A lot of things happening that we really had no idea about.
Yeah. I don't know what's happening with Rivian, man. I mean, CEO got on. I don't know what Bloomberg knows, but Bloomberg's like acting like keeps putting Fort Worth in the
multiple articles.
Yeah. And he pressed the Bloomberg anchor pressed the CEO and saying, what's the office's potential in Fort Worth and Europe? And he says, oh, there was a lot of speculation, but so we're keeping an eye on Rivian for all of you as well.
Yeah, I mean that's the $70 billion valuation. Never made a car before, but so that along with the Texas A&M would be mind blowing.
Man, we'll be on
information.
Fire.
Yeah,
we're making Fort Worth is making electric trucks. We're bringing Aggieland to Fort Worth. We got a veterans museum. I mean, yippee ki yay in this house. I mean, we are living up to it and bringing it to the 21st century, and I can support it.
Yeah. Well, thanks for listening. We hope you have a good week, getting into gearing up for the holidays, getting those turkeys ready, and we're looking forward to bringing you some more exciting content over the next coming month.
Peace.
Double tap.